I'm Tiffany Stead, and this is Amelia Hartley. In this video, we discuss considerations for performing a wheelie, including body mechanics and positioning, as well as some tips for getting started. Please remember to keep safety as the #1 priority when practicing these skills. Amelia will now discuss further.
The wheelie is a very important skill for wheelchair users to master. However, it can be very anxiety-provoking at first. It's important to understand, though, why it is important and when it can be used. Unfortunately, the small caster wheels at the front of wheelchairs aren't very good at navigating even small obstacles like sidewalk cracks or door thresholds. The wheelie is helpful in these instances, allowing the wheelchair user to go over these obstacles without stopping. However, if you don't do a wheelie and just fly into the obstacles at the same speed you were going previously, you may be tipped out of your chair or the chair may fall over completely. This poses a safety threat and is obviously uncomfortable for the wheelchair user. That's why it's important to master the wheelie. To master the wheelie, it's important to understand what it should look like, how to get into it, and some considerations to think about as you start practicing. The first part is what the wheelie should look like. You are likely going to be tipped back farther than you think you need to because your balance point in your wheelchair is actually pretty far back. However, once you practice, you'll get comfortable being tipped this far back. If you have core function, you can leverage that to lean forward and help you balance when you're back in your wheelchair. And you can use your eyes to make your wheelchair balance better by looking out into the horizon rather than down at the floor. In fact, if you look down at the floor, it's going to be very difficult for you to get into a wheelie and to hold it because your body is leaning forward, causing your wheelchair to tip back down. The second step is how to get into the wheelie. To do so, eventually, you'll want to be able to get into the wheelie by just a small push forward to put the caster wheels up, like this. However, at first, it may be difficult for you to do that. It may be easier to first roll backwards and then give that sharp push, because it is a little easier to get your caster wheels up that way. The third part is some tips on how to get started and what is important to think about. One big thing about the wheelie, as I mentioned earlier, is that it causes a lot of anxiety because you are tipped back and less balanced than usual. It's important, however, that the wheelchair user becomes confident and able to do this without anxiety or minimal anxiety in order to be able to progress it to more advanced wheelie skills that will be necessary in the community. To do this, we often have the wheelchair user go back into a wheelie or be brought back into a wheelie by their spotter and have them hold it there or have the spotter hold them there and have them just practice taking deep breaths, tell a story, tell a joke, different things to get them used to what it feels like to be in that position because it is relatively different than when all your wheels are on the floor. We often will go back and forth between the wheelie position and the on the floor position with the help of a spotter as well to increase confidence. In the end, before progressing the wheelie, you really want to make sure that the wheelchair user feels confident in their ability to get into the wheelie and also feels comfortable in that tilted back position. Because if you progress too soon, they'll develop fear about doing the wheelie, and this actually creates more barriers in the community rather than less. When working with a wheelchair user who has no prior wheelie experience, one good drill to start with is simply helping them get back into the wheelie position and get comfortable there. To do this, you will want at least one spotter who will stand behind the wheelchair user to apply pressure down on the push handles to help them get back into a wheelie. An additional spotter may be necessary or helpful. This spotter would sit or kneel in front of the wheelchair user and help lift the chair from the caster wheels or this elbow right here to again facilitate tipping them back into the wheelie position. Once they are tipped back, the spotters will help them hold that wheelie position while they practice holding their push rims and just getting comfortable. This is where you may help them take deep breaths or tell a story to help with anxiety if they have that, or just practice lifting and going back all the way in a repetition so that they feel what it feels like to go back, to hold it, and then to come back down.